the second thing that I want to show you how to do inside of XD is do a thing called stacks. And this may be helpful for you, again, depending on the kind of content you're going to have in your final website. So as we're starting to think about how you want to lay your pages out and have things work, I want to mention stacks, and then I also want to mention scroll groups in the next video. So in order to see when I'm moving around my lovely little recipe tiles here, I'm going to drop some images into these boxes. Now you're going to be working on wireframing starting next week, so you'll start to understand why in the wireframe I've just got my gray boxes. But in order to kind of show you how I can move content around, it's going to make more sense if you can see some images and can tell the difference between all of our 6 boxes here. So I did throw some images into a folder here for you. And they're kind of, some of them are food, some of them are just generic pretty images, so that we can have something to look at. One of the handy things about Adobe XD is that all of these boxes, by default, they can be replaced with information. And in fact, they act as what's called a mask. Now, a mask is kind of like, if you think about, you have a frame, and sometimes in frames you have that like thick mat that goes around the edges and kind of goes into the image a little bit. It's a bit like that. It's like a frame for your content. Same way that in Adobe InDesign, for example, you could have elements that went into a image box, and that image box was smaller and kind of cropped into the image itself. It's exactly like that. So when I drop these images in, you'll notice that they conform to the size of the box. The box doesn't change the size. So I'm going to go ahead. I've got my salsa in already, so I'm not going to reuse that. I'm just going to stick in my chili, my spicy kale salad, and then I'm just going to put some other pretty pictures in. As you can see, I can just drag and drop. It's a really handy feature. It then just sticks all of them in there. There we go. So now I've got some different images in there so I can tell what I'm doing. And the other thing that's nice when I was saying about it acting like a mask, so I'm just going to double click and you can see I can reposition the image inside of here. So that can be super useful once you've made a wireframe, you've decided this is the size of the elements that I'm going to put in. How do I actually want them then to look? Because you should always design your site and have decided what the structural content should look like, and then make your images match. So let's just say that I'm happy there with these. Now I'm just going to look in the wireframe recipe page at the layers to show you what's going on here. I'm going to collapse my top nav. So you'll see that each of these recipe card copies, they're a group. And then I've got my search, and I've got some other stuff going on. When I do either scroll groups or stacks, they work with groups. It's kind of scroll group, again, it's kind of in the name. So each one of these is a group, but then I'm going to need to group them based on how I want to be able to work with my stacks. Both scroll groups and stacks either work horizontally or vertically. They don't kind of work on both planes. So I'm going to show you what I mean real quick, and then I will kind of do it correctly. So I'm going to select, I want basically to be able to rearrange my cards. So say I want this card, I actually want it as the third item, not the first. Well, then I have to figure out, okay, and then I have to move this guy, and I got to match it all up. And it's not the biggest pain, but it's a little bit of a faff. And then, if I want it back, now I have to go and like arrange. I need to go and arrange. I need to send it backwards. I need to send it backwards again. Oh, maybe I should send it all the way to the back. Okay, there's my guy, and then I move it here. Now I gotta line it up both ways. So this is gonna allow me to more quickly move them around. So these are the ones that I want to move horizontally, and so I'm gonna want to stack it this way. Now, you'll notice that right now, they are not in a group together. They are 3 individual groups. So I'm gonna click stack, and it kind of guesses what I want, a horizontal or vertical stack. And it says I want it vertical. Well, no, I want them to be stacked this way. Oops, that's not what I want. I'm going to undo. And that's because what it's doing is for each of these, it's stacking it vertically. So this group has been stacked vertically. So now, instead, I want these 3, and I'm going to group them. So that is Command G, or Object Group. And I'm going to do the same thing for these guys. I'm going to group them. Now that they're a group 2, I'm going to have that be row 2. And group 3 here is row 3. And I'm going to call this one feature because I'm going to show you in a little bit how to make like a feature recipes going across. So now this is a group, row 2. Now I'm going to turn my stack on and it knows that it is a vertical stack. Oh, and look, there's 67 pixels of space between each of the items in the group. Let me go ahead and make that 65. You'll notice it's gone in. Let me go ahead and make that 50. Oh, it's tightened it up. I'm going to undo because I wanted my 67. But now I want to switch this guy. I want to move this over. Oops, sorry. I need to double click into the group. So I've got one of the elements. And do you see? They're automatically moving. And when I let go, even though I wasn't at my 67, it automatically puts the 67 spacing. Now I do have to just kind of make sure I'm up here, but it kind of snaps in spot, which can be really handy if you're like, I'm not sure the order of things. I don't really know how I want it. So that's can be really useful. So again, now that it's grouped, I can go ahead, turn my stacking on. Again, it knows this. And notice I don't have even spacing here. So in this case, I want to make sure it's 67. Now there's even 67 spacing. And again, oops, again, if I double click, so I grab any one of the objects. Now, if I say wanted it to be different on either side, I could go ahead and change these in here. So it's a really handy thing. And then we're going to get into scroll groups in the next one so that if I have maybe multiple recipes that I want as my featured recipes, I can go ahead and set that. But this is my stacks.